The diver's headlamp cut through murky water beneath the pier, illuminating something that shouldn't exist, a steel door, barnacle-covered, built into the underwater foundation. Morris watched from above, gripping the rotten railing, 74 years old, and wondering what his father had hidden down there for 60 years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The letter arrived on a Tuesday in October, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. My wife Helen and I sat at our daughter's kitchen table. Not ours anymore, though we paid off this house in 1997. Sarah stood by the sink, arms crossed. Her husband Derek behind her like a shadow. "We need the space," Sarah said, not looking at us. "Derek's mother is moving in. She needs the downstairs bedroom." "We're in the downstairs bedroom," Helen said quietly. Her hands were folded in her lap, fingers white at the knuckles. 48 years of marriage. I could read every tension. "Exactly," Derek said. "We've talked to Autumn Grove. They have a shared room available. Medicaid will cover most of it." A shared room? Helen and I had lived in our own home for 46 years before signing it over to Sarah last spring. "To avoid probate," she'd said. "You'll always have a place here, Dad." 6 months. That's how long always lasted. "We raised you in this house," I said. My voice sounded distant, like someone else speaking. "Your brother too, before the cancer." Sarah's face tightened. "Don't bring Jamie into this. This is about practical reality. You're both getting older. You need care. Autumn Grove has staff, medical support. We're healthy," Helen interrupted. "I'm 71. Your father is 74. We don't need staff." "The room is $800 a month," Derek said. "After Medicaid. Can you afford that on Social Security?" He knew we couldn't. Our combined checks were $1,100 monthly. Sarah finally looked at us. "I'm sorry. I really am. But Derek's mother needs help, and we only have so much space. You understand." I understood. We'd become inconvenient. They gave us 3 weeks. We spent the first week calling every apartment complex within 30 miles. Too expensive. No availability. No one wanted elderly tenants on fixed income. The senior facilities cost thousands, even to grim ones. Our son Jamie's widow, Lisa, had moved to Oregon and stopped answering Helen's calls years ago. "We could try the church shelter," Helen said one evening. She was sorting our clothes into boxes, her movements mechanical, precise. Grief hidden behind efficiency. "No," I said. "Not yet." In my father's old footlocker, stored in Sarah's garage, the one thing they hadn't thrown out. I'd kept his papers from the Merchant Marine, discharge documents from 1948, a compass, a faded photograph of him standing on a pier, and one other thing, a property deed for something in Crestline, a harbor town 3 hours north. Pier Lodge and dock structure, dated 1962, transferred to me when he died in 2003. I'd never investigated it, never thought about it. My father and I had been distant. He'd been gone on ships most of my childhood. After he retired, we'd spoken maybe twice a year. When he died, I'd boxed his things and forgotten them. Now, with nowhere else to go, I drove to the Crestline County office. The clerk was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. She typed for several minutes, frowned, typed more. "Well," she said, "it exists. Pier Lodge, dock structure, built 1924. It's still registered to your name. Transferred from Morris Keller Sr. in 2003. Taxes are," more typing, $62 annually, paid automatically through some old escrow account. She looked up. "Mr. Keller, when did you last see this property?" "Never," I admitted. Her expression shifted to concern. "According to our records, it's been condemned twice. Once in 1985, again in 2001. Both times someone paid for minimum repairs to avoid demolition, but there haven't been updates since 2003. I'm not sure it's habitable." She printed documents while I stood there, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. "The address is Pier 19, end of Maritime Road. It's right on the harbor." She handed me the papers. "Mr. Keller, I'd manage expectations. These old pier structures, most of them are barely standing. It was all we had. We loaded Helen's sedan with everything we could fit. Clothes, photographs, my tools, her recipe books. 48 years compressed into a back seat and truck. Sarah's car wasn't in the driveway when we left. She texted that morning. "Hope you find something good. Love you both." 7 words. The drive north took 4 hours through rain that turned to sleet. Maritime Road ended at a chain-link fence with a rusted gate. Beyond it, a wooden pier stretched into gray water, buildings lined along its length like crooked teeth. Most were collapsed or boarded up. At the very end sat our inheritance. The Pier Lodge was 2 stories, maybe 40 feet wide, built directly over the water on massive pilings. Gray paint peeling to bare wood. Windows either broken or boarded. A sign hanging by one nail, Harbor Master, no trespassing. The pier boards groaned under our feet as we approached. Helen gripped my arm. "Morris," she whispered. "We can't." The door was locked, but the frame was rotted. One good push and it swung inward. Inside was darkness, the smell of mildew and salt, and the sound of water moving beneath the floor. Also impossibly lights. Emergency lights, battery-powered, flickering on automatically as we entered. Someone had been here recently. Very recently. The emergency lights revealed a large room that had once been an office. Water-stained maps on the walls, a desk collapsed in one corner, file cabinets rusted shut. But the floor was solid, surprisingly so. I tested my weight carefully. The boards flexed but held. "There's no water damage here," Helen said, running her hand along a wall. "Morris, this wood is dry. How is that possible with the harbor right underneath?" We explored carefully. The ground floor held 3 rooms. The office, a storage area filled with rotted equipment, and a kitchen with a rust-stained sink and a stove that looked 50 years old. Stairs led up to a second floor, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom with a toilet, but no water pressure. But here's what didn't make sense. The windows had been boarded from the inside, recently. Clean plywood, new nails. The emergency lights were modern LED units, wired to a battery system that was maybe 5 years old. And in the kitchen, someone had left a Coleman stove, propane tanks, and a note in plastic wrap. Property maintained under trust agreement. Contact Harbor Authority with questions. What trust agreement? My father had been dead 20 years. "Morris, come here." Helen's voice came from the storage room. She'd found a trapdoor, built into the floor, with a new padlock. The lock broke easily with my bolt cutters. Beneath was a ladder leading down into darkness. I could hear water lapping, smell the harbor. We descended carefully. The ladder led to a space beneath the main floor, a maintenance area between the pier structure and the waterline. About 4 feet of clearance, lit now by my flashlight. Pilings thick as tree trunks disappearing into dark water. And built around one of those pilings, secured with cables to the foundation itself, was a steel platform. On that platform sat a safe. Commercial grade, maybe 4 feet tall, covered in barnacles and rust, but intact. And on the door, engraved in the metal, A.M. Keller, 1962. My father's safe. Hidden underwater for 60 years. "How do we open it?" Helen asked. I'd found my father's compass in his footlocker, the one he'd carried for decades. On the back, scratched into the brass, were numbers 47-23-61. The safe's combination dial was corroded but functional. I worked it slowly, feeling for the clicks. 47 right, 23 left, 61 right. Something inside clumped heavily. The door wouldn't budge, rust welded shut. I had to go back up for tools, and even then it took an hour of careful prying before it finally gave way with a scream of protesting metal. Inside, wrapped in layers of oilcloth and plastic, were bundles. I pulled one out, unwrapped it. Money. Old $100 bills, pristine despite the years. Helen climbed down beside me. Together, we started removing bundles. Behind them were document tubes, sealed with wax. I opened one. Papers. Official looking, with government seals. I read by flashlight. Asset Recovery Documentation, Department of Treasury, 1948 to 1962. The bearer of this document, Morris Keller, Merchant Marine, has been granted custody of recovered assets totaling $47 million in seizures, held in trust pending resolution of cases involving post-war black market operations. As these cases have been permanently sealed under national security provisions, and standard procedure requires asset destruction after 25 years, the Treasury has elected alternative disposition. Subject Keller's service and discretion have earned departmental trust. These assets are legally transferred to subject's custody, to be held or disposed of at his discretion. This documentation serves as legal proof of transfer. All official records have been expunged. The letter was dated 1962, signed by a deputy secretary whose name I'd vaguely recognized from history books. 47 million, Helen whispered. Morris, that was 1,962 money. We spent 3 days counting. We couldn't stay underwater for long. The cold, the cramped space, so we worked in shifts. Carried bundles up carefully, counted in the lodge office, returned them to the safe. The bills were older, but pristine. Small face hundreds, $1,000 bills that hadn't been printed since 1945. Some tubes held gold certificates. Some held actual gold coins, sealed in plastic. Helen kept tallies in her careful teacher's handwriting while I hauled and sorted. On the third evening, as sleet hammered the boarded windows and we huddled around the Coleman stove for warmth, she set down her pencil. $365 million, she said, accounting for inflation and gold prices. The cash is worth more now than when it was sealed. The gold certificates alone are collector items. We sat in silence, listening to water move beneath our feet, feeling the pier sway gently in the harbor current. It's legal, I finally said. According to those documents, Treasury transferred it. The cases were sealed for national security. There's no one to claim it. It's been ours since 1962. Why didn't your father use it? Helen asked. I thought about my father. Distant, always gone, working ships until his body gave out, living in a small apartment on his pension, dying alone while I was too busy with my own life to visit more than twice that final year. Maybe he didn't know how, I said. Or maybe he was waiting for the right time, and the right time never came. Helen took my hand. What do we do? I thought about Sarah's face when she told us to leave, about Derek's calculation of our Medicaid coverage, about the text message that said love you both, but meant goodbye. We make this place livable, I said. We live, and we think carefully about what money like this could mean. We could ruin them, Helen said quietly. Buy Sarah's house out from under her. Show them what they threw away. We could, I agreed. But would we? She squeezed my fingers. No, we wouldn't. The sleet turned to snow outside. Winter was coming. But we had shelter now. And choices. More choices than anyone had the right to expect. We worked through November, quietly transforming the lodge. I hired contractors from 3 different towns, paying cash, having them work on separate systems so no one saw the full scope. New roof, insulation, a generator system with propane backup, plumbing repairs, windows replaced behind the boards. Fixing up the old family place, I told them. Retirement project. The pier was ours, the entire structure. The other buildings had collapsed years ago, but our lodge was sound once I'd reinforced the pilings. The location was strange but beautiful. Harbor on 3 sides, the town a half-mile inland, mountains beyond. We were isolated but not remote. Helen made it warm inside. Rugs over the repaired floors, curtains on new windows, furniture from estate sales. She painted the kitchen yellow, hung photographs of Jamie as a child, of Sarah before she'd learned to calculate. Our history, preserved on walls that swayed gently with the tides. We kept the safe hidden, checking it weekly but otherwise leaving it untouched. $365 million, waiting beneath our feet. We didn't need $365 million. We needed enough, and we had that. Sarah called in December. Dad? It's me. Her voice was strange. Strained. I've been trying to reach you. Helen was kneading dough for bread, her hands working the rhythm I'd watched for 48 years. She put the call on speaker. We've been busy settling in, I said. Where are you? The number shows Crestline. We found a place, I said. We're fine. Silence. Then, Dad, I need to tell you something. Derek's mother didn't move in. She decided to stay in Phoenix. And I've been thinking about everything, about how we pushed you out, and her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I was scared of losing the house, of not having enough, and I listened to Derek instead of thinking about you and Mom. I'm so sorry. Helen's hands stilled in the dough. She looked at me. Where are you staying? Sarah continued. Can we help? Do you need money? We're comfortable, Helen said. We have a home. Please, let me make it right. I can send money. Or you could come back. Derek's moving out. We're separating. The house is paid off. You could have it back. I thought about the house we'd built. The rooms where we'd raised our children, buried our son's memory, grown old together. About signing it away because we believed our daughter when she said, always. That's not our home anymore, I said. You made that clear. Dad, please. You can call, Helen interrupted. Once a month. Sunday evenings. We'll see where it goes from there. Thank you, Sarah whispered. Thank you. I love you both. We love you too, Helen said. But love isn't enough by itself. You understand? I do. I promise I do. After we hung up, Helen returned to her bread, and I stood at the window, watching snow fall into the harbor. Maybe someday we'd forgive enough to see Sarah again. Maybe. But not today. Over the winter, money began appearing in strange ways around Crestline. The food bank found envelopes of cash. Families with medical debt discovered anonymous payments. The community college received a scholarship fund from an untraceable foundation. The Harbor Rescue Service got a new boat, donated by someone who'd left before they could be thanked. We were careful. Never more than 10,000 at once. Never in patterns. Different towns, different methods. It felt better than anything. In March, I hired a local kid, 22, working 3 jobs, barely keeping his fishing boat running. Paid him to help maintain the pier, cash under the table. He mentioned his younger sister, brilliant at math, community college only because university was impossible financially. Her tuition showed up paid the next semester. Anonymous donor. Helen volunteered at the library. I helped at the harbor doing boat repairs. We paid for everything in cash, lived simply, and told anyone who asked that we were surviving on pension and Social Security. The lodge became beautiful. Helen planted flowers in boxes along the pier railing. I rebuilt the dock, fixed the old harbor master sign. At night we'd sit on our small deck, watching boats come and go, feeling the gentle sway of water beneath us. One evening in April, Helen said, "Do you regret it? Not telling Sarah about the money? Not making her see what she lost?" I thought about it. About the fortune hidden below. About the quiet life we'd built. About the people we'd helped who would never know our names. No, I said. She took a house. We found a home. We could still ruin her, Helen said. If we wanted. We could. I agreed. But we're better than that. We're better than what she feared we'd become. Burdens, problems, inconveniences. We're proving something. What? That we're still us. Still the people who raised her. Still standing. Helen leaned against me, warm and solid. I like who we are here. Me too. In May, Sarah called on schedule. We talked for 20 minutes. Surface things. Weather. Her job. She asked again about visiting. We said maybe summer. She didn't push. When Lisa, Jamie's widow, finally returned Helen's calls after 2 years of silence, Helen told her the same thing. You're welcome to call once a month. Earn your way back slowly. Some bridges could be rebuilt. Some couldn't. We'd see. 2 years later, we sat on our pier deck watching the sunset paint the harbor gold. The lodge was fully restored now, beautiful in a weathered, sea-worn way. We'd helped 47 families with medical debt, funded 12 scholarships, kept the food bank running through 2 hard winters. The safe still held over $300 million, waiting to change more lives. Sarah visited sometimes now, once every few months, carefully respectful, never staying too long. She was learning. Lisa came once, brought her new husband, cried and apologized. We were civil. Healing took time. But the people we'd become on this pier, with our fortune hidden in the harbor darkness, we liked them. We'd been cast aside like garbage. We'd found treasure. And we'd learned the difference between being needed and being valued. Do you ever miss the old house? Helen asked. I thought about it honestly. I miss what it represented. But not the place itself. Not anymore. We built something better here. We did. The sun sank below the mountains. Inside, soup simmered on our stove. Tomorrow Helen would volunteer at the library. I'd help repair the harbor rescue boat, and we'd find another quiet way to give away money to people who needed it more than we did. We'd been discarded before winter. We'd survived. We'd thrived. And we'd proven that the richest people aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who know what it's for. The pier swayed gently beneath us, our home floating between water and sky, holding secrets and second chances in equal measure. We were exactly where we belonged,